Hey folks, welcome to the video. In this video, we're going to be looking at three what are called aggregate functions in SQL, and you have to know these to be a SQL developer. They're called min, max, and average, and they kind of work together. They probably, think of them as like roommates because, if you know one, you know the other. It's just sort of inherent. What we're going to do is we're going to look at them, how they work by themselves, but then we're also going to show how you can sort of extend them by using a group by. And then last but not least, bells and whistles. We're going to show them with analytical functions, meaning partition by. So let's go through it really quickly. First of all, I have a table. And this is what we're going to be looking at. This data, if you will, is, employee, department, salary. It's really straightforward. Now, I have a bunch of other queries below here, so let me just pull them up. I'm just deleting some stuff here. You notice there's a big space here. That's intentional because I want the queries are all different and I want them to line up. Let me show you how min and max work really quickly, and average. Basically, when we do these by themselves, this max is going to take the highest salary from the table. It's like if we were to order by salary descending, the first one that shows up, that's what max is going to show us. Min is going to show us the depressingly lowest salary, and average is going to show us the average of all the salaries. So these are each separate queries. Let's see what it looks like. So the highest salary in this fictitious company is $898,000. Yum. The lowest salary is $18,000. But if you notice, oh, and by the way, the average, because of the math that it's doing, it shows us ridiculously long. We only use for dollars to two places, but it's just doing this, and I'll show you how to fix that later on. But if you notice, in the real world, a salary, the average salary is never halfway between the lowest and the highest. Who knew? Anyway, let me snug this up a little bit. Now let's keep going. Now the next thing I want to show you really quickly is if you wanted to get rid of this ugliness down here, you'd have to do something. I like to do a cast as decimal. And what this 10-2 means is it's going to have a total length of 10, meaning it could be 8 digits long, but it can only go 2 past the decimal point. So let's see what that looks like. All right, the difference. It's real simple. See, here you have this with a dot, 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 and here it just cuts it off at 37 cents. Beautiful, perfect. Okay, we don't have to spend any more time on that because that's not why you are watching this. Now, let me show you what happens if I try to show the max salary with everybody's salary, everybody's department, and everybody's employee name. What's going to happen is this is going to completely fail. Boom. Now, this is not a problem with SQL Server. It's not a problem with SQL in general. It's just, we're trying to make it do something that it's not designed to do. And if you read this, it says emp, meaning the emp field from the emp table is invalid in the select list. This would be the select list. It's invalid in the select list because it is not contained in either, wait for it, an aggregate function. So like this part's fine. That's an aggregate function. Or the group by clause. This is where the group by clause would be. We don't have one, so it's not there. But that's why that's throwing an error, because it's not really put together well. Now here's an example of what we could do. I could say, select the department and the max salary. But I'm grouping by department, so it's going to show me the max salary for each department. Now this will work. So for advertising, the biggest salary is $32,000, whoop-de-doo. Cafeteria is $46,000. Wow, they make more than advertising. You can see where the priorities lie in this company. Mailroom, $34,000. Yeah, that's good for the mailroom. Software, $250,000. Look at these sales guys. This guy, one guy makes, or woman makes almost $1 million a year, but would you want to be in sales? Me either. Now, let's do all three of these did you see what just happened? I bet that never happens to Batman. Of course, Batman doesn't know how to program. He usually has Robin do all of it. Actually, Alfred knows a little bit of COBOL, but that's not really why you're watching this. Okay, so you see in all three of these, basically it does the same thing. It shows the department, and in this case it's the highest salary. In this case it's the min. It shows the lowest salary. And in this case down here, it shows the average salary. Okay, that's not really helpful. It might be a little easier. Let me go back up here. It might be a little easier if we do it like this. I'm going to show the max and the min and the average all at the same time from the table. Should have probably done a group by. Whoops, right, that's another one that's yeah. Should have said here group by department, order by one. Here we go. See that? Fixing it on the fly. Oh, I did have that. I just didn't have it selected. Yeah, where's Robin when you need him? Okay, so here, this is a much better way to report on this stuff. So we have the maximum salaries, the minimum salaries, and the average salaries. And generally speaking, it's going to be very rare where this is halfway. This is about the halfway point. That's about the halfway point. But when you get to these salaries where they're sort of like the biggest one is sort of like an outlier, well, that is kind of average. They probably, the average on here could be for each department might be halfway in between, you know, the high and the low, but not for the whole company. But anyway, it's just fake data. Yeah. The last thing I want to show you as we blow through this is how to do an analytical function. Now we have our same aggregate functions, but now we have the over keyword followed up by an order by. Now we're going to also show this using partition by, but let me just show you what this does. This is kind of helpful, but not like super helpful. What this does is it shows every salary, the max salary, but what this is like a running maximum. In other words, it'll take the maximum of the first record, but now when we get to the two records, it compares them, and it says, well, the 134 is still bigger, so it keeps going. When it gets to the third record, it says, whoa, out of these three records, the 234,000 is the max. So you see, it keeps going until it hits the next one that beats it, 374. Now, you might be thinking, well, when would I use that in real life? Well, I'll tell you, the most important time you'll use it in real life is when you go on an interview and they ask you if you know how to do this. Now, the minimum works the same way. Basically, it starts off, the first record, it's always the same, but then when you get to the second record, it compares these two, and it's like, oh, 29 is the lowest. And 29 keeps being the lowest until it gets something depressingly lower, or depressingly lower. And it works the same way with the average. Of course, on the first record, the average is going to be the same, but then when it gets to the first two records, it averages them. When it gets to the first three records, it averages all three. When it gets to the first four. So we have a running maximum, a running minimum, and a running average. That's great. You could stay late, off the clock, do this for your boss, say, hey, look what I learned at this boot camp online. And he's like, oh, that's wonderful. And then you know what he does? He gives you more work. Why? Because this is the real world. And the first thing he'll say to you is, this is really great information, but this would really only be helpful if I saw it by department. So you're like, okay. And you're thinking, well, all I have to do is add a where clause, and I just have to run the query as many times as there's departments, and then cobble all that information together, right? Wrong. What we're going to do is use a partition by, and we're going to do it all in one query with the same number of lines. The only difference is, in this case, each of the lines where we have an aggregate function, we're adding partition by department. And when you see how this works, if you don't know what's coming up, this is just going to blow your mind. Because if you had to figure a different way to get this in, well, let me show you what it looks like. Bam. Okay. Partition by, these are known, once you use over, It's an analytical function with an aggregate function. It turns an aggregate function into an analytical function or a window function. It's not really a window function until you use partition by, but I'll show you what I mean. If you notice in the result set, advertising, look what's happening. Let's just look at maximum. 18,000, well, the max is 18. 18 and 32, what's the max? Well, that's 32. 18, 32, and 27, what's the max? Well, it's 32. And then you get all the way down, and the max is still 32. But see, since it started with the lowest, the minimum is always going to say 18. It's a running max and a running min. And the average, the first one, 18 averages to 18. 18 and 32 makes 50,000. It averages to 25. On and on and on. But notice what happens when you get to cafeteria. It resets. See, now 31,000, well, the max and the min so far are 31,000, and so is the average. But wait, when we get down to 23,000, when we compare 31 and 23, 31 is the max, but 23 is the min, and 27 is the average. When we get all three of these, well, 31 is still the max, and 23 is still the min. When we get to here, 46, well, now we have a new maximum. But see, when we get to HR, it starts over. So why do they call these window functions? Because think about it. In a window, a window is usually, not always, but it's usually a rectangular shape inside of a much bigger rectangular shape. If you think of the whole entire result set as a building, then you can think of this as a window. Actually, this would be a window. And then this and this would be a window, and that would be a window. So that's why they're called window functions. Just something to know. But it's not really, in my mind, it's not really it's always an analytical function, but it's not really a window function until you're doing a partition, because then you have all the cute little windows. And that's it. Hey guys, if you like this video, please hit the like button. If you love this video, please consider subscribing or offer to, pet sit for me. Pays like 20 bucks every time. Okay, I gotta run. Practice this stuff, set up some interviews, and even if you don't get the job, get experience going on interviews. Try to do the remote ones. It only costs you like a half an hour, and then you learn what you need to look at. All right, I gotta go. Thanks. Bye.